Now we can make a phone call. I don't know who we're gonna call. Let's check the book, I guess. Let's not waste our money here and make sure that we... Industrial. Telephone. We're about to travel through time. Doctor, wait, what? Did I check that book? Before I make a call? Can't pick up any of these? That's just to leave, okay. Alright, let's try it. Got the phone. Okay.
Let's see if the phone number of the museum is listed in here.
All that for this? I'm a police.
Museum,
We
okay.
could
Museum of African Studies, Museum of Ancient History. Here, Anthropological Museum.
There
and
it
the
is.
extension of Professor Turner? It's here. I've got it.
Do I have to write this down? Seems like he has it. Okay.
What shall I pay for?
Maybe the phone call? Kind of sad we can't use the phone in our office for this, but I guess we didn't have the number. That's the idea.
Hello?
Hello, who's that?
Who am I speaking to?
Sorry to bother you. My name's Brent Halligan. I'm calling from the phone box outside the museum.
Oh? Why is that?
Well, I just drugged a homeless man for 60 cents and well, you don't need to know about that.
I was sent by a distant acquaintance of Professor Turner's.
Who was that, if I may ask?
Chris Hecker.
Chris Hecker? I don't believe I know anyone of that name.
As I said, he's a distant acquaintance. I need Professor Turner to help me with my investigations.
Oh. In that case, you'd better call him in 8 weeks' time. He's on an expedition.
Look, miss, what
Maybe
was
we
your
can
name?
talk to her.
Goodbye, Mr. Halligan.
She's hung up.
Maybe we can call her again? Maybe she's the one from our... Maybe that's her? In the little sweater jacket there? How much money have we got?
There are a couple of pounds here in small change.
Alright, we still got some cash here. Let's phone her up again before we realize we did the wrong dialogue option.
Hello?
Hello, it's me again, Detective Halligan.
I told you, Professor Turner isn't here.
I want to talk
Yes,
to you.
but
Detective, I'm very busy. Please call again in 8 weeks.
She's hung up again. Oh. There are a couple of pounds here in small change.
Alright. But she's clearly in there. Should we try the door? With some urgency, Halligan? Come on. People were watching. Presumably. 8 weeks.
Locked.
Can we knock?
Locked. Closed due to renovation works. Great. And now?
Alright. No luck. Yeah, 8 weeks later. I don't know, 20 minutes later, it gave us that option. Maybe it'll give us 8 weeks. Maybe the victims won't care. The family of the victims. Can we be quite quick, Halligan? People were being murdered. Hopefully the killer will be cool and not murder anyone for 8 weeks. I have half a mind to give Chris a piece of my mind for drugging me earlier. The hell was that about, Chris?
Well, Brent, still got a headache?
Don't ask, Chris.
Have you managed to contact Professor Turner?
Yeah, I phoned him, but he wasn't in.
Not in?
He's on an expedition. I just talked to some woman who works there.
With his extension number?
Yes, exactly.
Well, Halligan, that was probably his daughter Melanie. She works in the museum as well. My friend told me a lot about her. He used to be really keen on her.
So, Professor Turner has a
Friend.
daughter. Thanks, Chris.
Sure, Chris.
I think that'll help me.
Are you alright, Halligan? How are you getting on?
Yeah, everything's fine. Thanks.
Except when you drugged me, and I guess, well, I don't have anything to rob, necessarily. Alright, let's try calling her. Armed with this information, this is ridiculous. We couldn't just call back. We couldn't call Chris from that phone booth. Gotten some information. Chief Miller's gonna be like, this is how you spent your day? Yeah, give me the cliff notes on how you spent your day, Halligan. Well, I drugged a homeless man, Chief. Glad I didn't waste a cent of taxpayer money. Robbed him, got the money that way. Glad Brent can remember this number. That I never saw to begin with.
Hello?
Hello, this is Halligan again. Please don't hang up, Miss Turner.
How do you know my name, Mr. Halligan?
Chris Hecker told me that Professor Turner's your father.
Yes, that's true.
What do you do at the museum?
I'm an anthropologist.
The same as your father.
Yes?
Miss Turner, do you think you could help me?
That depends. What's the trouble?
I
Got a
found
bone.
a bone that I've had examined at the lab.
A bone? A human bone?
Yes, of course. It belonged to a murder victim.
Murder? How awful.
The bone is from the body of one of the victims of the skeleton murders. I take it you've read about them?
Oh, good heavens, yes. What can I do for you?
Couldn't we discuss that inside?
Certainly. Come on over. I'll let you in.
Yes! Alright, now we're getting somewhere. One drugged homeless man later. Very overcast here in England. It's almost not worth it. Like the rev up to get him to speed number 2, second gear, it's almost not worth it.
Mr. Halligan?
Yes, that's right. Hello, Miss Turner.
I think that's her.
Thank you for taking the time.
No problem. We're closed anyway. The museum is being refurbished.
It's not easy to get in touch with you.
Her mouth
I
was
close to
moving.
giving up.
Oh, you mean because of the phone call? I'm really sorry. I do sometimes tend to be rather short on the phone. You know, I get unpleasant calls sometimes, and that's why I'm a bit suspicious.
I
Sure.
see. Well, I finally got in touch with you.
Would you like to come in?
Yeah, her blouse matches.
Would you like
the,
a cup of coffee or anything
I think
else?
that's her.
No, thanks.
Mr. Halligan, how may I help you?
As I said, I'm working on the skeleton murders. We found another victim in Epping Forest. All the evidence points to the same culprit as in the other cases. The corpse was completely skeletonized. Professional work.
That's horrible. But how can I help you?
My colleague Chris Hecker of the forensic lab has already had a look at the bones. He thought that your father could perhaps carry out some additional tests. He is a renowned expert after all.
Yes, he could do that. But as I said, my father isn't here.
I know, but it is very urgent. Perhaps you could have a look?
You'll have to do, Melanie.
You say you've got some of the bones with you?
Yes,
Got
just
one.
one. Here.
It's a little burned.
This is a femur.
What happened in the
Yes, that's
bag?
what Chris Hecker said as well.
It will take some time, Mr. Halligan. Could you wait a moment?
Got nothing else to do?
I would like to ask you some questions about your work, just out of interest.
Good first question.
What are all these strange things here in your lab?
They're things my father and I have brought back from various expeditions. They have to be catalogued, will then become part of the permanent exhibition of our museum. Some things are personal presents. We keep those, of course.
You see quite a lot of the world, don't you?
Yes, that's part of my job.
Pretty sweet.
What's your father's current research project?
He's in Kenya studying initiation rituals.
What?
The rituals carried out when the
Initiation's pretty
childhoods of
basic
boys
word.
and girls end, and they're admitted to the circle of adults.
How long have you been working here?
Several years. My father helped me to get the job here at the museum.
Connections are indispensable nowadays, aren't they?
I was the most qualified applicant, but it's not easy to gain acceptance with the old boys of the museum's board when you're a woman. You have to be at least twice as good as the best male applicant.
And you were.
Of course I was. It's been decided that I'll be the head of the museum as soon as my father retires.
When
Nice.
will that be?
In 5 years?
Then you will have achieved a lot for someone your age.
How old do you think I am?
I'd say
Never guess.
29.
Exactly.
Oh. Wow.
What What's your research field?
I specialize in sacrificial rites.
Sacrificial rites?
Maybe you could explain
It's
this
an unusual
intro to this
research
game
field
I
for a young
saw.
woman.
Do you think so? I don't think you should divide preferred science fields for men or women, Mr. Halligan.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I just think that you must have to do with death all the time if you research sacrifices.
Death is part of our existence, Mr. Halligan. In all cultures, all around the world.
You're telling me. If you take it like that, we are almost like colleagues.
Maybe. But it's not my job to put people in jail. I document the sacrificial rites of different cultures in order to help create a better mutual understanding.
What is there to be understood about murder?
I'm not saying that I approve of everything I research, Mr. Halligan, but in foreign cultures, not all sacrificial rites are regarded as murder. Most cultures sacrifice animals or plants, and they do so for religious reasons. Human sacrifices don't exist anywhere in the world at present. They're a thing of the past.
That was very interesting. Thank you, Miss Turner.
Not at all. I like talking about it. I'm often alone here with my work. It feels good to be able to chat. But now I'll have a look at that bone you brought.
Good.
Oh, we're her. We're Melanie. Interesting. She doesn't look the same on that screen. Melanie. That was very seamless. Do we have any questions for Brent?
Well, did you get anywhere, Miss Turner?
Not really. Not yet, anyway. It'll take a while.
Okay.
Brent went to the Chris School of asking questions. Have you seen Professor Turner yet? No, I've been standing in front of you the entire time. All right, let's...
That's a human femur. Mr. Halligan gave it to me.
So we don't have any other inventory. I guess we don't have his wallet. He didn't ask us about it, but... Sorry, what is this? Can I use my bone in this? Alright then. It's a bone deli machine.
A slice of the femur. It's wafer thin. You can almost see through it.
Oh, I probably want to grab the, no? Okay. We have something we can analyze this with. There we go. Microscope.
I can't see it properly.
Oh. Starting to come into focus.
I can't see it properly.
I don't want to go too far.
There's some metal residue here.
That.
I can't see it properly.
Alright, that was it.
It's gold. There's some metal residue here.
Gold. Don't need the tweezers for that. Can I get that piece back, or is that all we need? Okay. What else we got? Interesting.
Father's distiller. There's
Distiller.
methanol in there. It's sometimes used to clean up relics. No, not a chance. That doesn't help either. A slice of the There's methanol in there. It won't... That's futile as well. No, better not.
Lots of little quadrants to her desk here.
These pieces fit together, but my father and I never managed to figure out where they came from. These sculptures don't belong here. I bought them from a junk dealer for just £20. I ought to take them home with me. I'll put them in the living room. The sickle's from England. It could be a Celtic artifact, but we haven't been able to date it yet. Antique muzzle-loader pistols. It must have been practically impossible to aim these things properly. Pieces of broken vessels. These stilettos were found during the excavations in Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City. These stilettos were found pieces of broken... The sheath of a dagger. That's a stiletto from the late Roman era.
Cool.
This dagger needs restoring.
Very good. On my own time.
Curved dagger. I think Father brought it back with him from Turkey.
Do anything with any of this stuff?
It won't work like that, I don't think. That's futile as well. Oh, Melanie, that won't work.
Big bone?
That's interesting. The notches in the bone were made by a sharp instrument. The sickle matches the notches to a T.
Huh. So the person was sickled?
That's interesting. The notches in the bone were made by a sharp instrument. The sickle matches the notches to a T.
Huh. Okay. Something we can tell Brent about. It's interesting. Forbidden Archaeology's Impact by Michael Cremo.
Hey, didn't this edition mention something in connection with sacrificial rites in Britain?
That would be super helpful right now.
Let's see. Yes, here it is. An article about the Druids and their sacrificial rites. The latest findings indicate that in ancient England it was probable for the most... for their high ceremonies, the Celts usually preferred to use... incredible. It all fits in with this bone. I'm sure
Melanie?
the detective will be very interested.
All right, we have a whole mess of things to report to Halligan. Assuming that's everything. I don't know if we need to wash off the bone or the little piece.
Mr. Halligan?
There. Let's give him what we got so far.
I believe I've found something interesting about your bone.
Go ahead.
In my opinion, this bone was worked on.
With a sickle?
Yes, and probably with a sickle made of gold.
He finished her
makes you
thought
think that?
there.
The bone bears notches
made for
matching
each
the
other.
cutting form of a sickle to a T. And I found a trace of gold in one of the notches.
Gold,
Golden
you say?
sickle. Who would use a weapon like that in order to cut a human being to
Druids,
pieces?
of course.
That's
Didn't
what I
you
asked
see the
myself as
title?
well. I found an interesting article which could help us. According to the historian Arthur Blake, the Britannic Druids carried out very bloody sacrificial rites. He found out that such rites took place at major celebrations of the Celts. He assumes that consecrated golden sickles were used for those rites.
And how does he know about these things?
He learned about it
Smart.
from old inscriptions he's translating at the moment.
That too.
Interesting, huh?
Celts? Druids? Quite some time has passed.
Are we in a
since then,
broken
hasn't it?
soul
Of course,
game,
but the
Melanie?
descriptions in the article absolutely match the findings on your bone, Mr. Halligan. I'm sure the author of the article can help you.
Where is this Arthur Blake?
What do you think? Could this Blake be right?
I don't know. Maybe he just wants to make money with horror stories about ancient Britain, but the bone you've shown me would match his theory quite well.
You'll be quite happy to talk to us, actually.
So you think this murder could be a ritual murder?
Yes, it would be possible. There are several occult sects and Satanists. They like checking their history books and adopting archaic rituals.
I would like to ask you some questions about your work, just out of interest.
Would you like to go to the cinema Friday evening? Or talk about aliens, pizza, and... darts?
What's your father's current research project?
He's in Kenya studying
We already talked
Inishi-
about that?
the
Yeah,
ri-
we already talked about that.
What did you say that?
Blake. Arthur Blake.
Was there any mention in the article of how you could get in touch with the man?
I thought you'd ask that. His address was printed below the article.
Pinewood.
366 Pinewood Road, Northampton.
Pinewood Studios.
I'm going there now.
Mr. Halligan, I'm interested in this, particularly because of my job. I'd like to help you with your
Come
case.
along.
Would you take me with you?
Hell yeah.
Impossible.
Oh.
Confidential police.
on,
I
Brett.
have to see him on my own. I'm sorry.
I'm sure my knowledge would be to your advantage, Mr. Halligan, and I think it would be really interesting
Come
to work on a
on.
case like that.
Oh, well, when I think about it, perhaps that's not a bad idea
There
at
you
all.
go.
Perhaps there will be more examinations to be done. Okay, Miss Turner, let's do it like this. I'll keep you informed on the case. If I hear anything new or if I need your help, I'll contact you. What do you think?
All right. I'll see you later then.
Yeah, see you later. And thank you, Miss Turner.
All right. Got ourselves a nice lead, I would say. Hopefully this will be reflected on our map of destinations. Oh, is this guy still unconscious? He's dead. Yep, he's still out. Sweet dreams. Robbing a homeless man. Hope you feel real good, Halligan. We'll find that wallet by the end of the game.
This must be it. Pretty out of the way.
Nice little cottage. Weather cleared up out here. Here at 333 Pinewood Road, whatever we're here. Doo-doo.
Mr. Blake?
Yes?
My name's Brent Halligan. I'm a detective from Scotland Yard. I have a few questions I need to ask you.
Scotland Yard? What's this about? Is something wrong?
I'd rather we discuss this in private. Do you mind if I come in?
I'm not sure. What's happened?
American.
Is there a problem with one of my publications?
No, sir. I'm investigating a murder case. Perhaps you could help me? It really won't take very long.
Murder? How awful. But what's it got to do with me?
Mr. Blake, I'd really prefer it if we could go somewhere a little more private. May I come in?
Well, yes, certainly. Come on in.
Take a look around his office first. You know, this is a little unorthodox. He'd be like, I invite you in. Do you want to talk to me? You just want to look around my study.
An old pendulum clock with a Roman face.
It's lovely. It's interesting that it gives it its own dedicated screen, like there's like a hidden passage here we'll need to use later. I called it back in episode 2. Don't forget that. I'm assuming.
Books. A lot of books.
There's definitely... Whoa! Alright, piano lead right there. That little... We're just asking a man some questions. He's not the murderer. Good lord.
You're the author of a book on Druids, am I right?
Yes, quite correct. In fact, I'm just working on a revised version for the next edition. But what makes you so interested in my book?
I'm currently investigating a series of murders in London. I've made some interesting discoveries that I'd like to discuss with you.
What series of murders are we talking about?
The skeleton murders. You may have read about them in the papers.
Oh, yes.
That's not something Gabriel Knight would be in on.
Terrible business.
Mr. Blake, I believe there may be some sort of ritual behind these murders.
Well, what makes you think that?
Dr. Turner from the Anthropological Museum in Oxford examined one of the last victim's bones for me. She found residual traces of gold on it and round notches.
Your theory?
Round notches, you say?
Yes. Does that mean anything to you? Doesn't your book on Druids mention ritual killings for which a golden sickle was used?
True. Are you saying these murders are based on the same
It's
ritual?
weird how
That's
their
what I've come to
their
ask
mouths
you.
start to
That's
move when they
impossible.
talk, and then they just get
It
lazy.
can't be true. It's... my God.
Well,
It would be unthinkable.
Yeah, then just
it would
stop.
confirm all my translations. I've been researching the history of the Druids for 30 years now, but I've never yet found proof of my greatest fears.
Your greatest fears?
Yes, the perfection of the final ritual, the final confirmation of the Druids' power.
That piano music. I mean, this is getting intense, but not that intense.
What's this final ritual all about?
This is the text I wrote down during my travels through England and France. You know, when you travel through the country, you can feel that many locals still believe in the old Celtic customs. A group of farmers in the south of England let me copy the inscriptions on a megalith that stands in a field there. They claim that there used to be a huge Druid temple close to their house, but there's nothing left of it now. Whatever. I managed to translate the text, at least in part.
Okay, Mr. Blake, please come to the point. What does it say?
It says that the last of the Druids saw the fall of their priesthood coming in the year 1000 A.D.
It's a Chrono
in the
Trigger.
confusion surrounding the final destruction of the Order, a demonic superior Druid seized power, using his knowledge of Druid magic, not for the good of his people and to honor the gods, but to submit all of mankind to his rule. In order to secure the survival of the Druids' tradition, and to complete his devilish work, he organized a final ritual, transferring the knowledge and
This guy has,
power
like,
of the
game
last
show
of the
host
Druids
voice.
to 5 infants. These infants have always been referred to as the inheritors.
Go on.
And they may
The
win a
inscription
brand new
says that the
car.
ritual was not entirely completed. I've not yet been able to discover why. But from what I've learnt, the inheritors are strong and powerful enough to one day complete the ritual by themselves.
What are you doing with your hands, Professor? That was interesting.
What happened to the Druids after 1000 AD?
Well, that's a good question, Mr. Halligan. Scientists are still arguing on that point. Some suspect that many Druids simply became priests in the Christian church. After all, Christian priests took over the position in society that had formerly been reserved for the Druids. They simply changed their jobs.
And secretly continued their own religion?
That's not unlikely. They certainly influenced the Christian church. That we do know. Some experts believe that the Druids' order never ceased to exist. That's where the myth surrounding the final ritual comes in. It supposedly took place 1,000 years ago.
Just remind you, this game came out in 2000.
Right. But what have these murders got to do with the myth?
Well, that's just it, Mr. Halligan. I haven't told you the whole story yet.
There's more?
Yes. The inscriptions explain that the Druids' inheritors require the life force of other people to complete the ritual.
I see. And how do they do
Sacrifice.
According to legend, the flesh has to be cut off the bones of living humans and to be eaten. Only then can their life force be transferred.
that? You mean the victims of these skeleton murders were practically eaten alive by cannibals?
By Druids. Yes.
I don't believe it.
The worst is yet to come, Mr. Halligan.
What? What could possibly be worse than that?
If such skeletons have been found in London, bearing marks of a golden sickle, it can only mean one thing.
A
The
brand new
inheritors
cup.
are preparing for the perfection of their final ritual.
Which means?
The myth says, once the ritual has been completed, the world will become a place governed by evil. Dark magic will be unleashed upon the world,
Boozle.
and mankind will have but one choice, to obey or to die.
I think that's already
Great.
happened.
And you really believe all that?
I believe it's possible. You know, Mr. Halligan, I'm not a superstitious man, but I've spent enough time studying Druidism to know that more goes on between heaven and earth than we can possibly imagine.
I quite agree.
You see, and the skeletons that have been found within the past few months fit in perfectly with the Druids' sacrificial rites. The day of the ritual's perfection is drawing near. Of that I'm certain. What we're looking at right now is just the beginning. Before we're through, more people will die, and the inheritors will soon be strong enough.
What can we do about it?
Yeah.
Time is running out, Mr. Halligan.
Positive?
You must find the inheritors and put them out of action.
Little hand gesture. Yeah.
That's an easy thing to say, but how can
Where
I?
do they?
There
do
may
you have an
be
address?
a way. During my latest research, I came across something very interesting. If the story I've heard is true, then there's a certain item that was extremely important for the ritual 1,000 years ago.
What is it?
A piece of jewelry mentioned in the old inscriptions. The Amulet of Transformation. You should try to gain possession of that amulet.
The Amulet of Transformation? What's its
Give it a
purpose?
shot.
I don't know, Mr. Halligan. Nobody does. All I do know is that the myth says it's important for the completion of the ritual. If you find the amulet, you may be able to prevent the ritual.
Gabriel Knight would have had the amulet by now. Just saying.
How did you find out about the amulet?
My work led to the discovery of a connection between the Druids of Gaul and Britain. It seems there was a small group of British Druids who fled to France when the ritual failed.
What for?
I don't know. Maybe they wanted to save the amulet. I found out that a 13th century despotic French nobleman somehow gained possession of the amulet. I found a picture of him in an old archive.
Really? Let me see.
I like whenever these guys are just spitballing their theories, it's always what's actually happening. It's always the reality. Looks angry, probably because he's holding his sword in that manner. He's like, ooh, this is sharp. Okay. Oh, that's the amulet. Let's look at the amulet. Big ol' X, and then, I don't know, J-U-D, Judd. Judd's amulet. All right, well, we got a picture of it now.
Well, he doesn't look particularly friendly.
Whoa,
Is he a
Melanie!
druid?
I told
He
you
must
to
have had
stay
something
back.
to do with the Druids, but I really
Definitely
can't
don't
tell you how he gained
possess
possession of the amulet.
Arthur Blake.
However, he is the only clue that I can possibly give you as to the whereabouts of the amulet. I suggest that you make your way to Carmore. With any luck, you may find more clues leading to the amulet there.
I told you to stay behind for this very reason, Melanie.
All right, Mr. Blake. I'll get
It's
going
dark
immediately.
magic.
Take care of yourself, Mr. Halligan. Good luck.
Oh, that's a neat trick. Melanie? I warned you. I told you to take me with you, Halligan. Now it's come to this. I'm possessing the body of this old historian and fixing my hair.
Well, what can I do for you? You can ask me anything you want.
Well, for starts, why is Melanie inside of you? If that's not too personal a question. Oh, no, let's talk about the wheelchair. Let's just pretend this is normal, everybody.
Tell me, Mr. Blake, why are you in a wheelchair?
Oh, that's a sad story. I was attacked a few years back.
Attacked? Who by?
I don't know. It was after an autograph session for my first book about the Druids. A group of men were lying in wait for me and beat me up.
Why? Had you had a disagreement with someone?
No, not that I know of. They just beat me up. Without warning, and without saying a single word. Then they left me lying there, calm as anything. They just strolled away.
That's terrible. Who could they have been? Do you know what they looked like?
They were dressed all in black and wearing dark sunglasses. That's all I remember. It all happened so fast.
And you've been in a wheelchair ever since?
Yes. I can't drive anymore, and I find my work very strenuous. I'll be grateful if I ever manage to finish my new book.
What's worse is now I have the body of a 29-year-old anthropologist inhabiting the upper half of my body. It's a struggle. Every day is a struggle, Mr. Blake. Oh, wait, he's Mr. Blake. I'm sorry. 4 elements?
I'd like to know more
I
about
want to
the
ask
4
as many
elements.
questions
The
while
Druids
Melanie's
regarded the 4
inhabiting his body
elements
as
the
possible.
material of which the world is made. They invoked the elements and used them for their rituals. There were only 3 proper elements: air, water, and earth.
Pizza?
Fire, the 4th element, existed solely for the purpose of transferring one of the 3 basic elements into another.
What do you mean?
Well,
It existed
solids
solely
and
for the
liquids
purpose of
become
cooking
gaseous
pizza,
through
the 5th
fire.
element.
Gas can be turned into liquid form with the help of fire. Take a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, for example. Fire, therefore, represents transformation, the transferal of one element into a new condition.
That sounds pretty complicated.
I suppose it does when you first hear it, but it's actually quite simple.
Yes, well, that's what my colleague Chris Hecker always tries to tell me whenever he
Not
starts
pizza,
lecturing me
pizza.
about chemistry.
Quite
My
right, Mr.
mistake.
Halligan.
Pizza
I
elemental.
shouldn't bore you with such details.
Yes, you were very boring, Mr. Blake. I will say that.
You're the author of a book on Druids, am I right?
Yes, quite correct. In fact, I'm just working on a revised version for the next edition. But what
Make
makes
that
you so
money.
interested in my book?
I'm currently investigating a series of murders. I've made some interest.
What's it?
The skeleton.
Oh,
Alright, we've already talked about
Dr.
this.
Chief.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That, you're
Yeah,
Alright, well. This image will never leave my mind. I'll see that till the day I die. Just have to live with that. Or did we ever actually see it, gang? Was Mr. Blake ever really, truly half inhabited by the body of Melanie, what's her name? Forget her last name. Alright. We should have some new waypoints now. That was wacky. And what do we got? Portsmouth. There we are. I guess the ferry costs like $1, whatever we had left over from robbing that homeless man.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you.